It's Wednesday, October the 1st, 2025. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. Also here in the northern of the Carolinas, we got Joseph Naven in Greensboro. We've got Sam Walker out on the Outer Banks. He's on the go if you're watching with us on Facebook and YouTube. That's right. He's reporting with a stick mic in his car because he's a pro, ladies and gentlemen. And from the southern of the Carolinas, Frank Strait, there in Columbia. We'll be talking about why Imelda took that right-hand turn, although I think everyone, for the most part, is pretty happy that Imelda took that right-hand turn. But we're going to start with our top story tonight, the latest and fresh, hot off the press in the world of news, which is the federal government shutdown. And before you go and turn off this podcast because you think we're going to talk about politics, I promise we are not going to talk about politics. But what we are going to talk about, real briefly, are the impacts that a federal government shutdown has on weather. And we've been seeing it playing out all day long as different federal agencies have been taking to social media, including NOAA, posting today on X that the U.S. government is closed and this account will not be updated. However, NOAA websites and social media necessary to protect lives and property will be maintained. So for critical weather information, as always, you can go to @NWS on X or other social media platforms or weather.gov, but you will not see other like PR things from them or other initiatives, other educational initiatives per se. Similarly, the hurricane hunters, the 53rd Weather Squadron, also taking to social media today saying, due to the government shutdown, this website is not being updated. And so you may see some drop out of some quote unquote non-priority or non-life-saving initiatives. We will still get severe weather warnings from the National Weather Service. We will still get forecasts from the National Hurricane Center. That is all good news. A little historic context for those of you who were with us, late 2018, early 2019. That's the last time we had a federal government shutdown. And that one lasted 35 days, the longest in U.S. history. And during that time period, workers like those at the National Weather Service continued to go to work. They were unpaid. Again, not going to talk about politics, but I think universally we can all agree going to work for 35 days unpaid is not cool. So hopefully this gets resolved sooner rather than later so that people can continue to get paid for the jobs that we appreciate that they're doing. But I just wanted to mention that off the top because here on this first day of this government shutdown, the first one in 6-ish years, just wanted to give pro shout out to all of our federal employees and thank those who are continuing to work in those critical positions like those at the National Weather Service. So regardless, I think, guys, of where anyone sits on the aisle, I think we're all pro National Weather Service and all appreciative of the job that everyone is continuing to do.
Yeah, especially out here right now with everything we've got to deal with the Humberto, Imelda, Northeast blow triple threat right now.
Yes. And you guys keep getting homes knocked into the ocean down there in Buxton. And I want to talk about that in a second, Sam. That's a deep tease, everybody. Don't go far. In a few minutes, Sam is going to bring us up to date because he's got some late breaking news in terms of more homes keep falling into the ocean. But let's get the big picture context. Go down to Columbia, South Carolina. Frank Strait is all queued up and ready to go and tell us what the latest is with the tropics tonight. And Frank, I think we're all pretty happy that Imelda took that right-hand turn. And was that anticipated, I think, is the big question.
Well, we knew that was one of the possibilities. Even before Imelda formed, we knew that was one of the possibilities, that it could take the right turn. It was also a possibility that it could go straight to the north into South Carolina, or maybe North Carolina, or that there could be some hybrid solution of the two. So we knew that was one of the possibilities, but we didn't know when Imelda formed or even before it formed which of those possibilities was going to turn out to be the one that happened in the end. Reason being is because the weather pattern was pretty complicated over the southwestern, well, not just the southwest Atlantic, but over into the Gulf, over into the eastern part of the U.S., down in the tropics, and we also had Humberto on the scene too. So anyway, one of the questions that we ought to address, and we'll start with this first, is what is a potential tropical cyclone? Because that's what they were calling this thing before it became a tropical depression or Imelda. So we'll start with that. And here's the advisory that was issued by the National Hurricane Center at 8 a.m. Saturday. This is a advisory 3A. And this was the last one where it was not a tropical cyclone, but they were issuing advisories on it nonetheless. And that's the key right there, is to understanding what a potential tropical cyclone is. It's not a tropical cyclone, but they're issuing advisories on it. And they have to call it something because it's not a tropical cyclone. So that's where the term potential tropical cyclone came from. It's just a system of some sort that the National Hurricane Center forecasts will become a tropical cyclone, which tropical cyclone, by the way, is a tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane. Very simple. It's just an all-encompassing term there for any of these things that we have come out of the tropics and sometimes cause a lot of trouble for us. So anyway, that's what a potential tropical cyclone is here. And look at the satellite view from that time. This is roughly 8 to 10 a.m. On Saturday morning. And you can tell this thing that eventually became Imelda looking pretty disorganized. I mean, there's a general turn. There's turning motion in the clouds there, and there are some thunderstorms clustering around in there, but there's nothing that's really concentrated near the center, and that's the key. You don't have a tropical cyclone if you don't have a well-defined, tight circulation and thunderstorms occurring in the vicinity of that center. And at this point, we still didn't have that. Now, a few hours later, when they issued Advisory 4, it was organized enough to be called a tropical depression. So it was almost there yet at this point, but not quite. So anyway, and you can see the other complications we're talking about. This hurricane over here, that's Humberto, which that was Saturday morning, but it was, I think this is around the time it was Category 5. It was, really going bonkers out there south of Bermuda. We also had a front along the East Coast, an upper level low cutting off here over the southern Appalachians. And because of all these players on the field here, it's why we weren't sure what was going to happen with Imelda to start. We weren't sure whether this upper level low that was over here, over kind of East Tennessee, was going to capture Imelda and pull it into the Carolinas and cause a lot of problems. Or would interaction with Humberto end up pulling it out to sea over toward Bermuda? Or, again, some hybrid of the two, which might even involve Imelda stalling out for a while along the South Carolina coast, which would have been really, really bad because there would have been a long period of long period of high winds and a long period of heavy rain that could have caused double digits, maybe 20 plus inches of rain, and a prolonged storm surge that caused coastal flooding over 4 or 5 high tide cycles. So we were really worried about that, but we're glad it didn't happen. Now, like I said, at the time, we thought that it could happen. And one of the reasons we thought that was because there was a lot of spread in the computer models. And I'm pulling this. This is from the Polar WX website. This is website Polar WX by Tomer Berg. And this track density map showing kind of all of the models combined into one, showing where all the tracks are showing. And this is a map that I actually made for one of my weather alerts that I do at SCDNR, showing, and this kind of shows the possibilities. You had at the time, this is Friday morning when I made this, and whatever circulation there might have been with Imelda to be at that time was over near the western or eastern rather tip of Cuba. And the models were pretty confident. All of them were in agreement it would go north into the Bahamas, become a tropical cyclone there, and then somewhere over or just north of the northern Bahamas, about half the models showed it taking a right turn going out to sea. Almost half were showing it going into South or maybe North Carolina, and then there were a few that were showing something kind of in between. And so that's why we weren't really sure what was going to happen, because we didn't have good agreement among the models. And this map kind of shows that pretty well. But in the end, we all know what happened now. Imelda did end up taking that right turn, feeling the influence more of Humberto than that upper level low. And the reason being is because Imelda was just took a long time to get its act together and moved really slowly. over the Bahamas. And because it moved so slow, it missed the connection with this upper level low that was as of Saturday morning over the southern Appalachians. It ended up lifting out before it could grab Imelda and pull it north. So instead, it felt the influence of Umberto and headed out to sea. And as of now, that's where it is right now. It's approaching Bermuda. There, you can barely see it. It's roughly where I have my cursor here, as Bermuda is a 32-mile long island. So Imelda's moving in. I have observations. They're getting gusts to 43 miles an hour right now. I meant to call up Bermuda's radar and didn't do it. So anyway, Imelda is heading northeastward, away out to sea. Umberto is no longer a tropical entity. What's left of it's kind of up here somewhere, and may get pulled into Imelda after it passes through Bermuda. But we'll see Imelda move off to the northeast, and it's not going to waste any time. It's going to shoot right through Bermuda and maybe take a little bit of a loop before zipping on off toward Europe, and then we'll be done with it. But in the meantime, it's time for us to move on to our next item tonight, which is going to be Sam talking about the homes that are falling into the sea out there at the Outer Banks.
Yeah, Frank, it's been a rough couple of days out here, and not just because of the weather. Obviously, we've been getting just slammed with, another couple of days of high surf from a passing tropical system. Nothing unusual for hurricane season, but we throw in the fact that you had the interaction between what was left of that low, that closed low, or that upper level low you were talking about, Frank, and the stalled frontal boundary where that thing formed. All the different things have all come together to just create kind of a bad scenario, a perfect scenario for us out here. And we saw the worst single day of destruction on the Outer Banks probably since the Halloween storm, the perfect storm of 1991. That storm was a 5-day period of northeast winds. We had sunny skies, beautiful conditions, but it was nothing but surf for 5 straight days. And we had 76 condemned structures out here, 3 motels that were destroyed. That's what has happened over the last 48 hours. We've had 7 homes collapse. And if you're just joining us and saying, well, wasn't it just 6 and wasn't it just 5, as you see the video there from Tuesday, because I've lost what day it is already from all these happenings. But yeah, we've had a 7th. We just had a 7th that fell around 8 o'clock this evening in the same neighborhood where we've been having all the problems in Buxton, which is just north of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. That we hadn't had any issues really as far as house collapses here in almost 30 years. But then over the last 5 years, the frontal dunes have been chewed away. We've had 2 beach nourishment projects that have they've only been Band-Aids, essentially. And then Hurricane Erin last month did such a, huge amount of overwash and moved a lot of sand out from under these houses out in front of them. And then it started Tuesday, and in 45 minutes, we had 5 houses go down. Throw a 6th in Tuesday night, last night around 11 o'clock, and then now a 7th one has fallen at around 8 o'clock tonight. And all this is just, as you can see, that powerful wave action, 8 to 10 foot, 12-foot breakers in the surf zone. And these houses, for historical context, and the biggest comments we say is, how did they let them build houses in the ocean? Well, these houses were nowhere near the ocean when they were built 30, 40, 50 years ago. There was 200 yards of dry sand beach. There was 8 to 12 foot tall dunes right up until about 5-6 years ago. At least the dunes were there. And we've just seen rapid erosion in this spot. Again, it's what we call North Buxton, the lighthouse, the motels. You'll hear a lot of people from here comment or call it that, the motels. There's a series of small motels right as you come into the village of Buxton on Highway 12. And then a neighborhood that runs on down to the old Coast Guard Navy base, and then where the lighthouse used to be right on the ocean front, which it's been moved back away from. That's the area that's just seen this rapid amount of erosion over the last 5 years. And it's just gotten worse and worse. Hurricane Erin really is what started this. And then, of course, the Humberto Imelda combination have finished them off. And don't be surprised we don't have more. High tide was around 4 o'clock this afternoon. This house fell around 8 o'clock. We've got high tide coming up around 4 a.m. Shouldn't be as bad. The afternoon high tides in this week are the worst ones. I will say this. We got lucky in the fact that we did not have a king tide this week. King tide's next week with the full moon, perigee, a hunter's moon, I think is what it would be called. The perigean spring tide, which has now become called a king tide. That's all of next week. If this had been 1 week later, we'd be talking about a lot more than just houses falling in Buxton. We'd be talking about a pretty serious overwash event along a good stretch of the Outer Banks out of this combination of weather systems that we got. So and we're still going to be dealing with it for the next couple of days, it looks like. Frank showing earlier about what Imelda is doing now and starting to spread. But we've got quite a bit of activity, wave activity that's come off this. The groundswell is what we're getting off the two hurricanes because they're distant. They've pushed those large, long period waves out from them. And when we talk long period, that's the period between the peak and the peak, 10 to 15 seconds. That is a huge amount of wave energy. I know there's a calculation that determines the amount of actual energy that's in that, in those periods. But we've seen huge wave periods on top of a wind swell off a pretty stout northeast wind. It's been 30 to 40 miles an hour, really for the last 24 hours offshore and here on the beaches. And that's what's just compounded things. And you've got when you've got two crossing currents, you've got the southeast, the ground swell from the hurricanes, wind swell developed by northeast. So these two are crossing each other. And it just creates, it just churns the ocean, and it's churning, and it's going to continue churning for the next couple of days.
Sam, with all the houses that have come down in the recent days, those aren't going to get built back, right?
No. One thing about, and there's a lot of reasons why those houses, we could go into why they haven't been torn down, which is essentially insurance doesn't pay till the houses fall. This area of Buxton is really very dense. When I say dense, there's a lot of houses in a small area. There's really nothing available for them to be moved. And to move them back under North Carolina's Coastal Area Management Act, they'd have to be moved back a pretty sizable distance. They have to be moved back, and don't quote me on it, but it's like 200 yards from the high tide, the mean high tide line. There's nowhere to do that in Buxton. Rodanthy's a little different farther north on Hatteras Island. We've seen some people be able to move their houses back, but state law isn't going to allow that. Throw in the fact that they're technically in federal. There's a lot of questions here because the biggest landowner in Dare County, North Carolina, it's the Department of Interior. It's the National Park Service. This is Cape Hatteras National Seashore, the first national seashore in the country. The beach that was in front of them was part of Cape Hatteras National Seashore, but that beach is gone. So there's some of that jurisdictional mess to throw in. And we were talking earlier about the government shutdown. We'll get into that as well if you want, because the cleanup that's going to happen would normally be handled by the private homeowners, but the National Park Service still has to do a lot of that cleanup as well because the debris is on the seashore. And this government shutdown is throwing a lot of questions into exactly how they're going to be able to respond. So, no, these houses won't be rebuilt. All these properties are going to be beach, sand, really underwater until we get another beach nourishment project, hopefully by next year. But, yeah, there will not be rebuilt. But there are it's a complicated issue. And I've got to give a really big shout out to Joy Christ at the Island Free Press, islandfreepress.org, which actually is having some crashing issues right now because of the house collapse story at the moment. But Joy has written very in-depth about the process, why the houses aren't moved, why they aren't torn down, why, what insurance does, what the government's role in this, the programs, the buyout programs that have been talked about have taken place. There's some it's very in-depth, and, we could do 2 hours on that alone. But, there's a lot of complicated issues in what's going on there in Buxton and in Rodanthe, and really all along North Carolina's coastline, but especially on Hatteras Island, because the beaches are Cape Hatteras National Seashore and federal lands. There's a whole complicated regulatory issues there as well.
What services are out there on the Outer Banks might be impacted for however long the federal government is closed?
Yeah, and we really don't know. I mean, we've seen a government shutdown where the Park Service closed everything. They put up chains at the off-road vehicle ramps. None of the visitor centers open. Bathrooms are locked. Essentially you were told stay out. The last government shutdown, the one that was 35 days back in 2018/19, that one carried over in December and January, which of course is our lowest visitation. So a little different, but things were left open. You could drive on the beach, but trash wasn't being picked up. Bathrooms got vandalized. Some of the stuff, around the parks got vandalized in the 3 national parks we have here. So we really don't know. I will say, talking to our Park Service friends off the record in the last 24 hours, they've told us that they're going to respond like normal to this event because it's a life-threatening event to the park and to potential visitors. They've got crews, they've got personnel. They're coming in from other parks to help respond to this, and they'll be there to clean up. We haven't heard from any of the property owners yet. Most of the times when these houses collapse, the property owners jump in. They get a debris contractor to come in and clear this out. Now, we're in a situation that it may not be safe for anybody to be close to that stuff until Saturday. Dare County government, Dare County Board of Commissioners, Chair Bob Woodard, Vice Chair Steve House, they were on site today. Mary Ellen Balance, who's the Hatteras Island Commissioner, they were on site today. They are working with their debris contractor to help to clear this out. So the county has stepped up. Haven't really heard anything from the state, but Dare County they're being very proactive with this, knowing the situation that the Park Service is dealing with now because of the government shutdown. It's thrown another complication in this already complicated stew of a mess down here.
The onslaught of waves that you guys are seeing on the beach, is that Umberto's remnants? Is that Imelda? What is powering all that?
It's a combination. It was the waves from Humberto that started showing up late Monday, and then lasting into parts of the day yesterday. Then we started seeing the rest of the Imelda waves showing up, and on top of that was that northeast wind that has kicked up, and that was the combination of those 2 tropical systems to the south interacting with the high pressure that was to the north, which kind of helped kick things out. So we've had a triple combination, a triple play that played out right on top of us. So that's where I was talking about earlier with the cross currents, the crossing of these waves, is you can go out there and stand on the beach and you can see a northeasterly component on the surface. You can see a southeasterly and more easterly component if you know what to look at in the water. And I've seen that, saw it when I was up in Duck out on the ocean front this morning. You could really see that. So it's a combination of all 3 factors, a northeast wind and the 2 tropical systems. The northeast wind's supposed to die out tonight. We'll see if that happens because, we just had rain spits here on the windshield in the last 15, 20 minutes. We weren't supposed to be getting more rain. It's supposed to be drying out, and I could see some breaks in clouds and some stars out tonight. But at the same time, we're still getting some showers. That's one thing about it. These storms will do these combinations out here on the Outer Banks. We get some weird stuff every now and then, and this is a great example of that.
Now you can barely
hear. James has been experiencing some audio difficulties.
Yes, he is having some audio technical difficulties tonight.
Hello?
Hello?
Barely
very,
hear you,
very
James.
low. Very faint. I'm supposed to be the one having all the issues. I'm the one that's mobile.
I don't understand.
How about now? How about if I switch microphones?
There you go.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you now. That's better than when you were overmodulated earlier. So
it doesn't make any sense because now I'm using the internal mic on my webcam. But anyway,
hey, any safe port in a storm.
I'm going to take some mic over no mic because I think
Yeah.
that would be a better plan.
All right.
What's with the flashing lights, Sam?
Oh, not sure. We're on the causeway here that goes out to our
Okay.
house out here on the island, and we couldn't really tell what was going on. No, we weren't getting
I
pulled.
thought you were going to be the first podcaster to be pulled over live.
Yeah, right. No, I think it was.
I'm going to read our ad read before we talk about some more Helene related things a few days out of the anniversary here, because it's that time in the show again where we want to give love and support to Queensboro, our partner here, for all of their kind support of the Carolina Weather Group. Because when you're building your brand, every detail matters, including what you wear. Queensboro Shirt Company makes it easy with easy ordering, free logo setup, and no hidden fees. For more than 40 years, they've helped people and businesses share who they are with the world with their quality embroidery and print, and it's all about honest pricing with them. Small business friendly and genuine care. Plus, they have a no returns necessary guarantee, which means that you can try them totally risk-free. Go to queensboro.com to see for yourself why they're the top-rated custom logo apparel company on the internet. And you can see on the screen right now, if you're watching with us on YouTube and Facebook, some of the Carolina Weather Group merch that we have here, and also that you can buy using the QR code that's on the screen. So when you do that, when you scan that QR code, you're supporting not only Queensboro of Wilmington, North Carolina, but also supporting the Carolina Weather Group and showing off your love for our pod. We love it. There are some of the hats and stuff. I think those winter hats are going to come in handy before we know it as we roll deeper into October, guys. Oh, Frank's got his hat on. I've got my hat on.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam has finally hit a dead zone. I had to give him credit. I had to give Sam's connection there pretty good as he was driving along the Outer Banks, and we didn't lose him prior to this. But also thanks to everyone at the bottom of the screen whose names are scrolling right now, who support us either on Patreon or on YouTube memberships, because those folks did help us pay for our travel to Asheville for our Carolina Weather Group Helene anniversary special. Things like gas and a meal. It was a day trip. There was no luxury hotels or anything involved. But, when you're contributing, we do use that money to reinvest in the show that you're watching. So we appreciate everyone. And I got to tell you, it was quite a team effort to pull off not only the Helene special, but a whole year's worth of content, from forecasting to live coverage to all the aftermath. And along the way, a couple things fell onto the cutting room floor. And guys, I have to admit, after we finished the Helene special, after we posted it on YouTube, after so many of you went and watched it, I realized we forgot what we call in the industry the cold open. The thing that we play right off the top that's supposed to hook you right into the show. We edited the whole thing, and I forgot to go back and tack on the cold open. So if you haven't seen the special yet, or you're just looking for a little bit more Asheville-related content, here now is the cold open that was supposed to be on our Helene special. Here's Evan and I.
Turn you around in just a moment so you can see it. And this is right on the outside of the outskirts of Biltmore Village. Let me get out of the way so you can actually see it, but the building is still hanging open after all of this time.
Yeah, we'll walk a little bit closer here, be respectful of the property, of course, but it is literally hanging open. I can see some of the kitchen appliances still.
It is. It's shocking. So much of the recovery efforts have gone towards getting people back in homes that some of the commercial recovery is still in limbo.
Our own Dan Whitaker was here.
That Moe's right there in Biltmore Village, guys, took the brunt. Biltmore Village itself took the brunt of a lot of the impact in Asheville. And it was remarkable to see that building was still damaged, because as you heard me starting to tee up there, and was intended to be edited into the special this way, Dan Whitaker, when he went storm chasing right after the storm, actually he was embedded in Asheville during the storm. We have video of what that Moe's looked like in the immediate aftermath of the storm, and it looked almost identical to how it looked today. But again, I do want to let folks know, and this was what we were trying to message in our special, Western North Carolina is open for business, and they would love for you to come and see the leaves and go to their restaurants and go to their businesses. There's just a very small percentage of things like that Moe's that remain kind of untouched or damaged. The adjacent McDonald's is still being rebuilt, but by and large, as we were walking around between the River District and downtown and even Biltmore Village itself, a lot of the stuff has been rebuilt and reopened. And Frank, you got family up there. I know you've been back up there. In your mind, Frank, how have things fared over the last 12 months?
Well, around my parents' house, they live in Polk County, North Carolina, There wasn't a tremendous amount of damage there, so things are pretty much back to normal. The one thing is that there's still the temporary bridge in place along NC Highway 9, just below Lake Adger Dam. That is still, I think, a temporary bridge. I don't think they have built the permanent structure back yet, and probably won't for a while, because they're considering widening that road. Probably going to, actually. So it may be a while before a permanent bridge gets built there over the Green River just below the Lake Adger Dam. But aside from that, I would call things pretty much back to normal, at least in the section of Polk County where my parents live.
Yeah, I mean, by and large, what I saw during our travel was pretty back to normal. We know Lake Lure, the water is still very, very low, and they're going to start raising that over the next few months to hopefully by springtime get that waterway and that tourism back up and running. Lake Lure, Chimney Rock, that whole adjacent area. But let's bring in Joseph Naven. Joseph, we've got some video here that CSX, one of the two major railroads in the area, posted just this week, I believe it was, on social media, because part of Helene's damage to the region was an impact to infrastructure and the supply chain. So talk to us a little bit. You're our resident rail fan train expert here. What is it that CSX is celebrating now 1 year after Helene?
Western North Carolina, Asheville, Marion, that whole stretch is really connected by two major rail lines. East to west, CSX is one, and then there's Norfolk Southern's. The CSX one goes to the Novichucky Dam between Erwin and Spruce Pine, and basically 60 miles of track was completely washed out. And by completely, I mean to bedrock. There wasn't any railroad left. And so basically to the last year, they've spent millions of dollars in basically rebuilding an entire railroad, which is basically something that hasn't been done since the early 1900s. It's a big scale project. And this week, we basically, CSX officially opened the line with the first through train, which you see in this video. Actually, that's at Poplar, I believe, crossing through. And so that was basically the big milestone in getting that open. At least for CSX now, they have their main, that line connects basically Tennessee, Erwin, all the way down to Spartanburg, and vice versa through Charlotte as well. So basically that's another east to west between the mountains to the coast kind of rail link that's now repaired. And that kind of just frees up kind of the detours have had to run for at least entire year.
We have the detours coming right through Matthews here because I live between Monroe and where the Charlotte hub is, and we saw a lot of those coal trains being detoured through here to bypass some of the damage track that CSX had. We also had an opportunity at my day job at WCNC to talk with Norfolk Southern, one of the other two major rail operators you mentioned, and they were talking a little bit about their repairs. I want to play a little clip here and get your insight on them too. So let's take a quick listen to this.
Our efforts to restore operations in Western North Carolina have been they've been staggering since last year. We're proud to say we have trains operating back into Asheville. It was a really, really proud experience for us as an organization, working with the communities where we operate to restore operations, to get service back to our customers, and help get life back to normal in those communities.
Yeah, so important to see that. And it seems like it's a painstaking process, but we are happy to see it.
So, Joseph, when I was in Asheville with Evan, we saw Norfolk Southern's rail yard there in the River Arts District operating. They've got trains. But he said something very interesting there. How is it that Norfolk Southern is connecting to the Asheville part of their network? Because we know they're not coming to Old Fort.
They're what the representative said should have maybe more of an asterisk to it. Norfolk Southern's line, there's a bit from Asheville to Salisbury, and then there's an Asheville to the Tennessee side. The Tennessee side through Newport, there was a massive bridge failure in Newport right after Helene, and other stuff as well around the Newport kind of area. And that part of the Tennessee side link was washed out, as is the area on the east side of Asheville, which was the Old Fort loops, which is a series of loops between basically Black Mountain and Old Fort that were basically washed out completely, not as bad as the CSX railroad's infrastructure. But anyway, they've restored to normal operation, mostly the west side going into Asheville, and that's revenue, and that's all done. But as I said, there's an asterisk to what he said. Basically, is the east side is completely basically cut off still, and so if you want to get anything to Asheville, you'd have to go all the way around. You can't go from the east. You can't. So basically, the track ends in Black Mountain ish, and Old Fort, and there's still areas with no track for.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, right after Helene, Joseph went to Old Fort to look at some of that initial track damage. That's in our Helene special, which is in the podcast feed wherever you're watching or listening to us. So thanks for that update, Joseph. You know, it's important, I think, for all of us to keep our finger on the pulse as we continue to rebuild from Helene 12 plus months later as all these efforts carry forward. We have too many tabs to get to in just a moment, but did you guys have anything else Helene related, Frank or Sam, you wanted to throw in real fast before I turn the page?
Well, it's interesting to, the discussion about the rail service, because everyone thinks of Asheville. They think about us as being a tourism-based economy, and that's for sure. But, when you get out to the Piedmont, western parts of North Carolina, so much is still industrial, and how much that's had an impact on the economics of Western North Carolina and North Carolina as a whole, because of the loss of that rail service. To get that back is going to, at least help rebound things. But it's amazing how much actually still travels by rail the rest of the state. We have one little rail line that comes out of Norfolk and goes down to Elizabeth City. It doesn't really service a lot, but it's not something we think about out here. But out there, obviously, that is a huge part of getting the business side of things back and the industrial complex side of things back. It really the western third of the state, trying to get that main line get back in line.
Yeah, and we know some of the interstates are still being rebuilt. That's another part of the supply chain, and also drive tourism and people traveling through. But again, the big picture, 90+% of it is everything is back open for business. In the last couple months, I've been to Boone, I've been to Blowing Rock, I've been to Asheville. So they're very much looking forward to everyone coming back. As we get into the last few minutes of our show, when we play our game of too many tabs, all the other headlines we wanted to get to, I wanted to pop up on the screen for everybody right now to kind of celebrate the beautiful weather that we're going to expect to see in Charlotte Motor Speedway this weekend. Not a raindrop in sight.
Darn.
I mean, what's a NASCAR race in Charlotte without rain? It feels like every one of these events gets rained out. But our Scotty Powell, the on-site meteorologist for Charlotte Motor Speedway, is driving here right now. I actually keep turning around to see if he's just going to surprise me. And he will be there. And so hopefully he's got an easy job, because when he's got an easy job, you've got less to worry about if you're a race fan or if you're going camping. I mean, what a beautiful fall race weekend to not have to worry about any rain after so many days of clouds and rain here, guys.
Yeah, but rain on the Roval, it just adds something to the Roval. Come on.
They
break out the rain tires. They got the rain tires.
I want to say they use the rain tires regardless on the Roval. I thought that was no road tires. They use the road tires.
Yes, they have a road course, a specific compound the road course guys use. Now, I'll get my fill on rain on a road course watching in Singapore, the F1 race weekend in Singapore. So
I should have pegged you as an F1 guy. One of these times, Scotty will take us back out to the Speedway, and Sam, you'll have to be sure to join us.
I will have to come out there. Yes.
Frank, I know we wanted to get in 10 years ago, weather history anniversary here in the Carolinas. You guys down there in South Carolina were dealing with a lot of rain, though.
Yes, a lot of South Carolina was about to be underwater 10 years ago today, as we were starting the 2015 flood that not directly caused by a tropical cyclone. There was one that had an influence, Joaquin, that was passing over the Bahamas and heading toward Bermuda at the time. But this was actually not a direct hit from a tropical cyclone. It was a non-tropical entity that caused that. So for my contributions to our too many tabs section, I will bring up a couple of things that one that we've done in the climatology office, and one that the National Weather Service in Columbia just did, which is GIS story maps detailing the event. The one you see here is the one from the National Weather Service in Columbia. They just finished doing this. They just released it about a week ago. And then there's the one that we have. You can access this from the State Climatology Office website. And actually, there's the URL for it up there. Let me make the text way bigger so you can see. I made it too big. There we go. Right up here. That's the URL that takes you to the story map that we did. This is before my time. Was released back in 2016, if I remember correctly. So the staff that was present in the climatology office then put that together. But those two publications are there for you to go back and review the soggy situation that we had in South Carolina back in 2015.
I know that reminds me, Frank, I wanted to give another shout out as you pulled up a story map here to the one that NCEI in Asheville made after Helene, because those story maps, whether it's the one you guys made here for 2015 or the one NCEI just made for the Helene anniversary, a lot of really good in-depth weather content if folks are looking for something to consume. You can always keep an eye out for those.
Right. Let's see if I can quickly get my hands on the Helene story map that they did. Yep, I've got it. There it is.
You've got it? Okay, we'll pop your screen share back up here on the screen. And I do want to let folks know that you saw some of it in our Helene special when we talked with Jared Reaney and Jason Cooper. We will have more from inside NCEI in Asheville coming up probably next week here in the Carolina Weather Group. So you'll want to get subscribed for that, barring any sort of severe weather or tropical excitement. That is our plan. I wanted to go and pop up this next tab. We love them dearly, all of our fellow weather pods. And we got this message today from Stormfront Freaks, a fellow weather pod, announcing that after 10 seasons and almost 250 official episodes, the Stormfront Freaks podcast will be concluding its run of bi-weekly shows on October the 23rd, so later this month. Their full announcement is down there below. You can bookmark them for, again, Thursday, October the 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern will be the last of their regular scheduled bi-weekly shows. I texted Phil Johnson and I said, what does this mean, Phil? They're still going to be doing specials. You'll still see them from time to time. Their Stormfront Freaks network does include, as their message mentions here, live storm coverage with Stormcat 5, educational shorts with Serena. So they're the people you know and love over there at Stormfront Freaks aren't necessarily going away, but they're taking a pause on their regular, scheduled, routine shows that they do every 2 weeks. And as I told Phil, and I'm sure everyone on this panel could agree, that is a grind I think we can all commiserate with. And just wanted to, again, send love and appreciation to them because, as so many of you guys know, our Weather Pods community, we don't compete. We're all one big happy family. As we were reminded when we were editing our Helene special and going back through our Weather Pods telethon after Helene, when we had Stormfront Freaks, we had Chaser Chat, we had Weather Brains. We're all different shows doing our own thing, but we're all a community that bounce off each other, and we're going to miss having them every 2 weeks, and want to give them thanks and love and appreciation, and also just our full-on support, because we know that it can be a lot on top of day jobs and family obligations, and so I'm looking forward to seeing whatever comes next for them. Mm-hmm. We are coming up on the hour mark here. You guys have any other tabs you wanted to get in on tonight's show?
Yeah, I got a couple here.
Okay.
Well, first off, I'll throw up some of the latest pictures. Pictures we just got in from this latest house collapse.
For anybody that's just joining us, Sam, this was 7 or 8. What number did you have?
7. This is number 7. Yeah, number 7. There's a picture from let's see here. There you go. There's a picture from Don Bowers. Taken about it just after 8 o'clock. Don has been doing yeoman's work. You know what? I need to pull up the video that he got yesterday when he dropped his phone in the ocean.
Oh no!
and someone found it. All this debris. So yeah, but this is the seventh house. I'm going to start losing count. This is the seventh house again to fall. This one fell about 8:00 tonight. Tower Circle, which is part of just north of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, where this one went down. So that's one of the photos. But I'll show you the debris here, the debris field, with another shot from the 6th, because I'll do a little scroll down, because this one, let's see, 6, 7 share. And this is from earlier. This is the one that was last night. So this photo was taken this morning. This was the house that fell last night. I'm pretty sure that's the same house that fell tonight, the one that's behind it.
I was gonna say, I mean, that time was that house was on borrowed time when this photo.
Yeah. And we knew there was at least 3, maybe 4 that were going to go down since then. But when you see that, and then I'll scroll down the story, and you just see just the immense amount of debris that 7 houses collapsing in 24 hours in one beach area has done. And one thing that Joy Chris from Island Free Press noted is that there's like a 2-foot cliff out there of sand, and all this debris is piled up against it. So we've had that onshore flow and the wave action and all this debris. So one thing that's been interesting is a lot of this debris has stayed right along the beachfront. That might actually be a good thing, because it might at least keep things cleaned up. Something that I got asked today when I was on with Jim and Stephanie this morning on the Weather Channel was, where's this debris going? Because, we could have ended up at Myrtle Beach. Like, no, it's not going to end up there. Usually when this stuff spreads out, it's about a 20-mile distance. So we've seen the houses collapse in Rodanthe. We've seen debris all the way down to where these houses are. One thing to note is just south of here, about 2.5 miles, maybe 2 miles, is the point, the actual tip of Cape Hatteras, where the Labrador Current and the Gulf Stream meet, and where the actual graveyard of the Atlantic and Diamond Shoals and all that stuff that, the legend that is the Outer Banks. It's not, that's where the beach goes from east to west. It's, facing east, and it's facing south. So there's, where that debris goes is going to be open ocean. So, that's one thing to consider, but it seems like a lot of it's piled up against the beach. And then I'm going to jump over one more. So if you guys don't mind, just one more. And this is from Brett Barley. Brett Barley is a Buxton native. He's a pro surfer, surfs for O'Neill. And he is, obviously he's a surfer. They watch waves like nobody's business. And he really has, and he travels the world to surf. So he's, he knows what he's talking about. So this right here is this was the observations from the buoy. I believe this is the buoy, the 20-mile out buoy off of Cape Hatteras. These are the observations that were taken from that buoy this afternoon. He highlighted in red where high tide was. But one thing that happened was the swell height went to about 10, but the period jumped to about 12 to 13 seconds. And when we talked about it earlier in the show, is that's where that energy, that distance between the peaks of the waves, that's huge. That is huge. That is a lot of energy that was coming through. And the predictions really didn't show that. Let me see if I can jump to one more. This is tomorrow's predictions as far as what we're going to see. Notice how the winds are staying up in the 29 to 30, almost 30 knots today. Yeah, we're going to see them still in the 25 to 30 out of the northeast. So we're still going to be dealing with a pretty stout wind swell through at least tomorrow. On top of the east direction, and notice down below in that graphic, the easterly direction of the wave action. So that's where I've been talking about. The waves are coming off the hurricane at 12-foot average, maybe dropping on down to 11 or 10. High tide is around 4:30 a.m. Thursday, and then about 5 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. But you can see the period's still running around 11 seconds. It's a lot of energy. And again, you got an east swell down in the ocean. And I say in the ocean as in 5-10 feet deep. But then on top of the surface is where you get all that chop, that northeast chop. So Buxton's they're going to get hammered again tomorrow and probably into Friday as well.
Buxton cannot catch a break, Sam.
No, they can't. They can't, unfortunately.
Let's go to Frank Strait for one more. Last word tonight comes from Mr. Strait.
My remaining too many tab to share with you tonight is weather radar out of Bermuda, which shows Imelda moving in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it looks like it's kind of disorganized right now. It doesn't really look all that much like a hurricane. You have to say, where's the eye? And I don't think there is one right now. So it's in the process of becoming a non-tropical entity now, but it's still a hurricane. The hurricane hunters were out there not long ago and found evidence of 100-mile-an-hour winds. But here's the latest weather radar from about 15 minutes ago. The last frame's about 15 minutes ago, showing Imelda just about to, the worst of it, just about to move over Bermuda. Latest observations have wind gusts to 45 miles an hour. Those could come up considerably in the near future.
Making that a little bit bigger for folks who are watching with us on YouTube or Facebook, but there you have it. So what happened to Imelda? That's what happened to Imelda. Now we know where the storm is. And I mean, again, what a bullet we dodged. And we talked about this at the beginning of the show for anybody just joining us. When that potential tropical cyclone cone came out for then future Imelda, we had more of the inlands of the Carolinas potentially being impacted, but we always still had in play all these different scenarios Frank was explaining to us, hoping that this right turn would happen. And it did, but only after states of emergency were declared in both states and Governor Henry McMaster came out and held a news conference. Like, we started ramping up all the things, which, I mean, I guess we needed to do as the clock was ticking. But lo and behold, the storm did make a turn, not without impacts, as Sam has been telling us, in some form or another between Humberto and Imelda. But, bullet dodge for, I think, most of us as the storm, deciding to veer off to the right. So
and it was a much closer call than you think. I mean, we were talking about evacuations.
Right.
I mean, all those gears were in motion, right?
Yeah. Right. The gears were in motion. It was being discussed. Do we need to evacuate? And if so, where and when? And do we have enough confidence to actually say, hey, Governor McMaster, I want to do some evacuations? And we're glad that the forecast changed when it did, because if it would have waited another 12 to 24 hours, we might have had evacuation orders that turned out to not be necessary.
My closing thought is, if you found that stuff in your storm supplies was non-existent or expired, don't put off replacing it. Now's the time.
Correct. Yes, that's one thing about these kind of situations. It turns out to be a big exercise, but exercise is good for you. And it lets you know where your weaknesses are, and now you know what you need to do to make sure you're prepared.
All right, well, that's going to do it.
Sorry. Yeah, just going to say, the good reason we did go the directions we did, both in North Carolina and South Carolina, Matthew is a great reminder of what can happen, which is, we saw that with Matthew. Forecast had it going out, spinning around, turning around, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. What did it do? Hug the coast. Imelda had some similarities, if you think about it, with stalled frontal boundary, all that stuff. But yeah, it was this was a good chance to practice everything for everybody to be ready for when, not if, but when the next storm comes.
Sam, I will give myself 30 more seconds if I can, because your comment about historic storms reminded me that an eagle-eye viewer here on the Carolina Weather Group pointed something out to us in our comments the other day on YouTube, and I want to find it and give them credit. Dixie Anderson on YouTube wrote on one of our Imelda updates, wasn't this the same layup before Hugo? 2 storms, ? And they're onto something here, and they're really, really onto something here, because as most of our viewers may know, or if you don't, every couple of years, the names of the hurricanes and the tropical systems in the Atlantic Basin repeat. And we're on the rotation right now. That was the same rotation, the same list from 1989. And the H name, Hugo, got replaced with Humberto. Hugo is interacting with Iris, which 2 or 3 iterations later became Imelda. So here again is the H storm and the I storm. in close proximity to each other. Now, they were in kind of different locations, and obviously Hugo came ashore, and Hugo did what it is known for, and Iris probably was lost to most people's memories, except for Dixie's. But I was like, wow, not only was it two storms interacting each other with impacts to the Carolinas, but also was the descendants, if you will, of Hugo. So Hugo's descendant, Humberto, essentially saved us from Imelda.
Right. Crazy.
Stuff. All right, on that note, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Carolina Weather Group. I'm going to work on my audio so it sounds better next week. And I hope you'll be back with us for more weather, science, technology talk from around the Carolinas. But until then, be well, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye, y'all.